Hi there, smart driver. Talking to you today about crashes and crashing, what you can do to avoid crashing, and the main ingredient in keeping yourself safe on the roadways. Car crashes, as I said, they're more of a problem than people would like to think. If we took all the car crashes in one country and put them in one place at one time, it would be deemed a national emergency. In the 19th century, the century before the one we're currently living in, more people were killed, maimed, and injured in car crashes than all the soldiers sent to war in that century. So in a 100-year period, which is absolutely crazy to think how many people died in car crashes. For those of you new to Smart Drive Test, my name is Rick August. I was a truck driver in the 1990s. I hauled freight between Ontario, Canada, and the United States, mostly east of the Mississippi. Did make it down to Texas and out to Oklahoma, Nevada. No, not Nevada. Nebraska. That's it. I was confusing Nevada with Nebraska. Yes, I made it to Nebraska, which is Omaha. Omaha, Nebraska. Isn't there a song with Nebraska in it? And Omaha, Nebraska is at the east side of the state. And if you look at a map, there's Omaha at the east side, and then there's an entire state of Nebraska that there isn't anything in. So I did make it to Nebraska. Drove buses for Greyhound and one of the regional bus lines when I lived in Australia after 2002. Became a licensed commercial driving instructor in 1997. Earned my doctorate in legal history in 2006, which is the study of policing, courts, and prisons. My expertise is in policing as it relates to traffic, oddly enough. So I looked at how policing and law changed in the transition of motor traffic, horse-drawn traffic to motor traffic. Started the online YouTube channel 10 years ago. Crazy to think we're still doing it 10 years later, in 2015, and it has been wildly more successful than I could have imagined. Although, you know, we're going through a few struggles right now, but it'll come back. It always does. We'll get through this AI revolution as well. And if one more person tries to sell me something about AI and how wonderful it is and this and that and blah, 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 I think I want to slap them. I want to slap them because it's annoying. It's annoying as ever that it's just going to fix your life and just do everything for you. And it really doesn't. All right, a couple of good videos to look at, and Corey will put these up for you in the description there. 40% of crashes happen at intersections. This is probably the most important place where you scan and map and track road users, is at intersections, and 5 defensive strategies to keep you safe on the roadway. Spinning your wheels. There's a refereed journal article that I wrote, which basically argued that policies and driver education did not reduce the number of traffic crashes that we experienced after the 1960s, because we did have a tremendous decrease in the number of traffic fatalities. And I put that in quotes because we're not talking about the number of crashes nor the number of injuries that have occurred because of traffic crashes. However, we did reduce the number of traffic fatalities, and I'll talk about why we reduced the number of traffic fatalities in the last quarter of the 20th century, as opposed to traffic policy and driver education. These were not responsible for reducing the number of traffic crashes. Okay, traffic crash deaths. At the beginning of the 1900s, okay, the 20th century, war, famine, and disease were the number one killers of the human race. War, famine, and disease. By the beginning of the 21st century, the century that we currently live in, it was terminal illness, strokes, heart attacks, those types of things, suicide, and traffic crashes were the number one killers of people in the world. And now most traffic deaths happen in low-income countries. I think that's the PC term for that. Maiming and injuring. The number of traffic crashes has not gone down. We still have the same number of traffic crashes that we experienced all along from the 1960s and whatnot. We still injure many, many people in traffic crashes. However, more people are surviving traffic crashes than ever before. Nobody is immune from traffic crashes. James Dean was killed in 1955, and the image here is a speeding ticket that he received 2 hours before his traffic crash and his subsequent death. Tim Horton famous coffee shop chain here in Canada, was an NHL hockey player as well, was killed in a car crash in 1974. Princess Diana, but some people will say this was conspiracy. Princess Diana was killed in 1997 in a car crash, and Paul Walker, who was the movie star in the Fast and the Furious franchise, in some sense of irony, was killed in a car crash driving with a friend of his. The three of them, there was a trio, and they collected cars, and they were out test driving a car, and unfortunately went around a corner and crashed into a tree, and Paul Walker was killed. Most traffic crashes, as I mentioned previously, occur in clear weather, dry roads. Sober drivers, single vehicle crashes are also a high number of fatal crashes. Fatigue, prescription drugs, over-the-counter medications, these are responsible for inebriation. I know that we have a great deal of social media presence and grassroots movements with MAD. However, many people are tired when they're driving. They're distracted when they're driving. We have the whole new telematics, cell phones, technology that people are playing with and videoing. I saw a video today on Twitter where the guy is shooting a video while driving his car, and I'll tell you, I have been criticized about that, but I am not looking at the camera and talking about something that unrelated to what I'm doing when I'm driving. I'm talking about what I'm doing when I'm driving, so I'm more engaged in the traffic situation in which I'm doing. But the person today was actually shooting a video, and they were talking about how lazy Americans are, and that, you know, if they got 2 arms and 2 legs and a head, that they should be going to work. So, and they were driving their car while they were shooting the video. So these are the reasons that people are involved in car crashes, and the most number of crashes happen in the summertime. The different types of crashes: head-on crashes, T-bone crashes, rear-end crashes are the most common crashes in North America. It is the #1 crash that we have, and this indicates that people are following too close when they're driving. As well, they're not shoulder checking, and they are not reading traffic patterns and not interpreting the actions of individual road users on the roadway. Sideswipe crashes. Head-on crashes and T-bone crashes are often fatal, especially when they happen on highways at higher speeds. That vehicle occupants are not going to survive those types of crashes. In addition to that, over 80 kilometers an hour, the chances of the seatbelt and the airbag protecting you and allowing you to survive in a car crash go down exponentially as speed increases, because the reason for that is the energy in the vehicle, the kinetic forward energy of the vehicle, increases exponentially as you increase speed. So therefore, if you go from 40 kilometers an hour to 80 kilometers an hour, the speed is doubled, but the amount of energy in the vehicle has went up 4 times. And here's an even better one. If you go from 20 kilometers an hour to 100 kilometers an hour, which is 5 times the speed, you've now increased the energy in the vehicle 25 times. So the energy, the kinetic energy in the vehicle increases exponentially, and this is why most crashes on highways are fatal. We have twice the number of crashes in cities at lower speeds, half the number of fatalities. But as you get out onto roadways where you have fewer crashes but more fatal crashes, twice the number of fatal crashes on highways. That's why. So head-on crashes, T-bone crashes, and T-bone crashes are often fatal because there's simply nothing in the vehicle that is going to protect you in the event of that type of crash. Rural crashes, these are often fatal, as I was mentioning. Higher speeds, the chances of somebody finding you, even with GPS now, it's still difficult to get emergency services out to you because of the long response time. And we'll talk more about medical science, advances in medical science, mostly because of the Vietnam War, but we understand trauma better, and if we can get people into surgery almost immediately, they're going to survive the crash. GPS, helicopters, single vehicle crashes. Oftentimes what happens in rural areas with single vehicle crashes, people fall asleep, they're driving drunk, they're inebriated, and they drive home and they drive off the roadway or drive into a tree or drive into a utility pole or those types of things. Top 3 reasons for crashing: failing to yield, following too close, and the mismanagement of speed and space. In other words, you're too close to something and you're driving too fast for the conditions of the roadway. And I know that these think tanks and research Organizations will continue to say again and again and again, speed kills, speed kills, speed kills, speed kills. But what does that mean? And there are many definitions of speeding. Driving faster than the posted speed limit. That is the most common cause of speeding, but you have to understand that the posted speed limit is an arbitrary number that they've picked out of the air. Okay? There is some engineering principles that go along with picking posted speed limits, but for the most part, it's just something that is there. Driving faster than me, driving faster than the posted speed limit, driving faster than the conditions of the roadway will allow. All of these are different kinds of definitions of speeding. And today I was looking at a video on social media where somebody was driving a Bugatti on the Autobahn doing 414 kilometers an hour. Just what, to 414 kilometers an hour? What's that, like 280 miles an hour? Just crazy to think, you know. And I mean, I always point to the Autobahn and people aren't saying, oh, look at the Autobahn and look how many people are killed on the Autobahn. Intoxication, late 1960s, grassroots movements with the number of drunk driving, because in the late 1960s, alcohol was part and parcel of North American culture. Not just in North America, but in Europe as well. Everybody was drinking and driving. Teenagers, drink driving, dating, and distractions. And the late 1990s was the late 1980s that we started with the GLP programs, the graduated licensing programs, or the GDLs, the graduated driver's licensing programs. Okay, and just about every state, every province has one now. Bureaucracy, drink driving laws are changing, and contract for life. And if you want to have a conversation with your parents or guardians or anybody else who is in your life, it's something that Matt has come up with, where you have a discussion with your parents saying that if you're out drinking or you're smoking marijuana or whatever you're doing, and you don't want to drive, you can call your parents, they'll come and get you, no questions asked, whatever, right? And it's a reciprocal agreement, so I really like it that you will go and get your parents as well if they're drinking and those types of things. So if you don't have one, get one, sign it have a discussion with your parents and sign it. Vehicle safety features, and this is the reason for the reduced number of traffic fatalities within our society. Cars have become safer. We thank Volvo for this. You know, seatbelt use has been probably the most important safety feature that has protected people in a car crash as well. Safety glass, breakaway steering column, safety restraints, and airbags. All these safety features have reduced the number of fatalities due to traffic crashes. But at one and the same time, we still have the same number of traffic crashes. We still have the same number of injuries. We just don't have people dying as much in traffic crashes. This is the best kept secret in traffic safety and road safety circles. Medical advances. This is another thing that has kept people alive owing to traffic crashes. We have ways to recover people and get them into surgery faster. The golden hour, which was one of the things that came out of the Vietnam War, that they learned that if they get people who had sustained serious injury and get them into surgery within the first hour, they are probably going to survive that traumatic event. And so quality of life is one of the questions that you need to ask yourself after being in a traffic crash. What quality of life are you going to have in the aftermath of the crash? Are we having less quality of life, or are we having more quality of life because we're keeping people alive? And I know that there are many people who, you know, we have this discussion about life and death, and they're like, no, I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to talk about it. So that's one of the other things about car crashes, okay? So most of these medical advances came out of the Vietnam War. However, it has been a long time since the Vietnam War, 1975. So what, we're 25, 50 years from the Vietnam War. There have been many, many more medical advances that have kept people safe and helped them to survive traffic crashes and to remain alive. Good luck on your driver's test. And remember, pick the best answer. Not necessarily the right answer. And I'll just give you an example of that. Medical advances and how much, you know, medical science has advanced. When I was in my 20s, you know, hate to say that was a while ago. So a couple of decades ago, when I was in my 20s, I went in for exploratory surgery where they go up through the urethra and they have a look around. And so when I was in my 20s, they knocked me out. So they put me under anesthetic, which I really dislike anesthetic. I don't know if anybody else has been under anesthetic, but it's not like you go to, it's not like going to sleep where you have dreams and you're kind of aware of what's going on around you and those types of things. When they put you under anesthetic, you are out. Like, I mean, it is black. It is just black. Anyway, I woke up after they did the surgery and the nurse said to me before we can release you and let you go home, you have to urinate. I was like, okay, whatever, blah, 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 just got out from anesthesia. Everything was fine. I go into the toilet. I'm standing there and the nurse is standing at the door because she's like watching to make sure I'm okay. And when the urine started, I just like went to my knees. I was like, it was excruciating pain. I'm like, oh my God, what did you people do to me? So fast forward a couple of decades, I had the procedure done again, the same exploratory procedure where they go up your urethra. The second time that I had it done, a couple of decades later, I was wide awake, sitting in a chair, and the doctor, the urologist, is there, and there's a screen, and he's like, doo-doo-doo, and he's like, oh, you want to see? And I'm like, really? No, I don't want to see inside my insides. And so, and I walked to the hospital and I walked home with, I'm telling you, like minor discomfort. So advances in medical science, I can attest to advances in medical science. Not only, I just had ablation done, which is, they figure out the wiring of your heart. I just had that done and I'm like, it's like having a new heart. So there you go. So advances in medical science are keeping more people alive because of car crashes. And the biggest myth in traffic safety is that we have reduced traffic fatalities, but we have not reduced the number of traffic crashes, and we have not reduced the number of injuries owing to traffic crashes in our country and in our society and in our world. And as I predicted, we have this engineering model right now where we hate cars and we are slamming in concrete and we are building segregated bicycle lanes all over the place. The problem with these segregated bicycle lanes is that on one road, it's really awesome and you've got this beautiful segregated bicycle lane and everybody's using it. And then you get onto a back street and there's no segregated bicycle lane and there's cars parked on both sides and there's room for one car to come up and there's a bicycle going down and somebody on an electric scooter. In the next 5 years, we are going to see an exponential increase in the number of vulnerable road users who are going to be killed and injured in traffic crashes because of the electric scooters, the electric bicycles, the one wheels, every other type of electric machine that we have put on the roadways because of the cost of living, of inflation. People cannot afford to drive cars. They cannot afford to put insurance on cars. So therefore, they're turning to the alternative of electric bicycles, electric scooters, and those types of things to bomb around town because, I mean, why wouldn't you? You get an electric scooter. It does 40 miles an hour, 60 kilometers an hour on an electric scooter. You can just bomb around. You can go anywhere you want. And it's only, what, $1,500 for an electric scooter, and you don't have to have insurance on it. You don't have to maintain it. It's not expensive. So we're going to see an explosion of people on electric bicycles, electric scooters, one wheels, but we're also going to see just an incredible number of people being killed in car crashes riding these electric vehicles in the next 5 years. It's going to become alarming how many people, because I've seen these people on electric scooters and one wheels and e-scooters and those types of things, and they're in and out of traffic. They're not wearing helmets. They think that they're invincible and that other people are going to see them driving cars, and they don't. They don't, because they're so unpredictable on our roadways. Elevator fan, if another vehicle is about to hit you, you should sound your horn. Yes, you should, because people react to sound first. So therefore, if other people are going to hit you, yes, exactly what elevator fan says. Try and hit your horn to get the other person's attention. try and take evasive action, move out of the way, always move to the outside of the roadway. And in addition to that, in terms of defensive driving, if you have a choice between a head-on crash and a sideswipe crash, take the sideswipe crash every time. Because in the event of a sideswipe crash, it's probably going to result just in body damage, property damage rather. It's just going to result in property damage. Whereas a head-on crash, you are going to sustain all kinds of injuries when you're, if you survive at all in a head-on crash, because oftentimes, you're slammed up against the seatbelt, your internal organs are slamming up against your chest cavity, and there's all kinds of internal injuries that happen in the event of head-on crashes. So try to not have a head-on crash and keep yourself safe when you're driving. Crashes and crashing, it is the downside of driving and traffic. And as I said previously, most people think that what they're doing on the roadways is being safe. They're following too close, they're speeding and those types of things because they think, oh, I'm in control and I can react fast enough. And you want to keep a 3 to 4 second following distance behind traffic so that you can move from reacting to what's happening in traffic to responding to what's happening in traffic. Because space buys you time, time buys you options, options prevent crashes when you're driving, and you want to respond, because if you respond, therefore you have different options about what you can do. And oftentimes when you have space between your vehicle and the vehicle in front, you can simply slow down because traffic is busy and it's congested. And I know that, there are driving models out there, defensive driving models out there that say, leave yourself an out. There are many times traffic is just too busy that you can't leave yourself an out, but you can always control the space in front of your vehicle. And if you have that 3 to 4 seconds in front of your vehicle, therefore you have time to respond to what's going on in traffic and keep yourself safe when you're driving. And yes, every now and again, other people are going to cut in and they're going to take that space away from you, but they're not going to be there for very long because they want to get in front of you and they want to get gone. So therefore, just let them go and have their crash somewhere else and reclaim your space. Prime, thank you. I am moving from Florida to Nebraska. That's why I was asking about driving in snow. Have a good night. Prime, what is in Nebraska that you are going to, my friend? Oh, that will be a big change going from Florida to Nebraska. Wow. Like I said, I've been to Nebraska once. I was into Omaha. But I think there's a country and western song about that as well. So Corey's put up the video on top 10 reasons for an automatic fail in a driver's test. Definitely have a look at that if you are going for a driver's test. We'll leave it there for tonight. Thank you so much, everybody, for your questions, participating in the live stream. Always a pleasure. And remember, pick the best answer, not necessarily the right answer. Have a great night. All the best. Bye now.